Welcome back for today's Farm and Ranch News. And we all know that farming and ranching is a big gamble, and there is a little bit of that going on here in Reno, Nevada for the summer business meeting of the National Cattlemen's Beef Association. But a lot of work is taking place as well. And joining us from Cheyenne, Wyoming, Mr. Mark Eisele. He's Vice President of the NCBA. And Mark, here at the summer business meeting, a little smaller event than the annual meeting that takes place at the end of January and the first part of February. But what is the purpose of this key event when it comes to creating policy?
Well, of course, there's current issues. There's all the marketing, changes from the administration, rules and regs that come down. We've got to talk about the Farm Bill, a whole myriad of things, including some housekeeping for the industry.
Well, again, a lot of key issues, as you said, being brought up here. And one of them that our listeners and viewers at home are really concerned about is that upcoming Farm Bill. What are some of those key priorities that cattlemen and women are discussing this week at the meetings?
Well, of course, there's a lot of the livestock indemnity, livestock programs, forage programs, things like EQIP, a lot of those things that are critical, and we need to weigh in, not just the row crop guys, but the producers that have some of those issues. We need to make sure it's funded, they're included in the discussions, and that's some of the things that we're wanting to talk about.
Well, a lot of other issues apart from the Farm Bill, from the Endangered Species Act to other federal regulations that could impact producers in the countryside. We'll have more with Mark Eisele from here in Reno at the summer business meeting of the cattle industry right after this.
Beef farmers and ranchers around the country are implementing land-conserving, wildlife-protecting, award-winning environmental efforts. Learn more about how beef farmers and ranchers are rethinking the ranch.
Returning back today from the Nugget Hotel and Resort in Reno, Nevada at the Cattle Industry's summer business meeting, Mr. Mark Eisele joins us. He calls Cheyenne, Wyoming home. And I should ask, how are things looking at Cheyenne? You're here in Reno, and I know that Frontier Days is going on, but how are things at home?
It rained at home. Now that Frontier Days are on, I wished we'd had Frontier Days 2.5 months ago. That's where we're at. Otherwise, things are good. We've got grass. We're going to be okay.
Well, we all could use a little more rain across the West, but Mark, we were talking about some of those government regulations, in particular the Endangered Species Act. What are some of the key areas that NCBA is continuing to work on when it comes to ESA and some of the changes that have been implemented by the Biden administration from the Trump administration ESA-wise?
Unfortunately, they've decided to roll back a couple of really good rules that had been out there. One of them is the blanket 4D rule. They can introduce stuff anywhere for any reason, and same with critical habitat designation. They just say that we think this should be habitat, it could be habitat, we're going to make it habitat, and we're going to enforce it like habitat. And having been involved in those fights, I find that very, very troubling. It's just something that shouldn't have happened. The rules were working, and I think that's going to be a sore spot for us, and we're going to have to figure out how to overcome it.
Well, again, thank you for joining us and sharing a brief update of the many, many topics that are impacting cattlemen and women out in the countryside. And Mark, I should add that the National Public Lands Council is heading to Cody, Wyoming. That's coming up the 24th through the 26th of August. But again, we would just like to mention that upcoming PLC annual meeting taking place in Cody, Wyoming there at the end of August. From here at the Nugget Casino and Resort in Reno at the 2022 Cattle Industry Summer Business Meeting. Reporting, I'm Lane Nordlund.